Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a slightly different project from the ones we had before, and I have quite a few electronic pieces that I would like to fix. And today we will be working with the Surface Pro, Microsoft Surface Pro tablet. I believe that's version 4, so Surface Pro 4. And the problem what we have here is that not very uncommon, but I don't know if you can see it here. This screen is bulging quite severely. I don't know if you can see it. It's not flat, and it's delaminating on this left side quite substantial. As you can see, there's almost as thick as the tablet itself. So the screen is bent, but it's working fine. Obviously that's not how it's supposed to work, so we'll need to fix that. So the problem for that, and let's see if I can show you on a close-up. Yeah, you can basically see everything what's inside the tablet. I'm just looking through the crack. Yeah, you can see pieces of adhesive there. Yep, that's the adhesive. So yeah, so quite not what we want to have, and we're going to fix that. So the problem with the bulging of surfaces, and actually quite similar to many other electronic devices, like cell phones, is the battery inside. The battery inside goes bad over time, and it expands. And because there is obviously not much space in there, the space is very tight. There's nowhere to go, so it actually pushes out the screen out usually, even though the screen is glued, and that's the cause for delamination. So depending on what's stronger, screen or the glue, it could lead to several things. The screen can delaminate like that, like what we have here, or the screen can crack. That also can happen, and then you have to replace the whole screen. So right now the screen is not cracked, well, yet. So we are not done with that yet, so we'll see how it goes. So ideally we only need to replace the battery. So in order to do that, we need to completely detach the screen, look what's inside, and replace the battery obviously. And while we're there, because we are detaching the screen anyway, might as well do an upgrade to an SSD. Well, I mean, there's already an SSD, but I think this one is 128 gig or something like that. So relatively small by today's standard. So I'm thinking about upgrading it to 256 or maybe 512 even while we're there anyway. So, but we'll see if we can get to that part. First things first, we need to detach the screen. In order to do that, we need to there are several ways how you can do that. Generally speaking, you need to heat up the adhesive so it either liquefies or at least softens a little bit, and then you can cut it out all over around with the pick or something. And there are several ways how you can heat it up. You can use the hot plate, so basically you put it on a plate like that, it heats the whole device, and then you work with the adhesive. Not necessarily ideal, it's easy, relatively fast. You don't need to do much, but it heats the whole device, and that's not really necessary. Or you can do more localized heating with the hot air, usually a solution of sorts. The cheapest one would be obviously the hair dryer. I mean, people have done that, not the best. You could do the heat gun, or you can do even hot air soldering station or a rework station, and that's what I have here. If I can show it up, like this one, probably one of the cheapest ones, but hey, I mean, the thing is that all it does is regulating the airflow and regulating air temperature relatively precisely. I mean, better than the heat gun, and certainly better than the hair dryer, because you generally don't even select the temperature. And the thing with the taking off the screen is you don't want to hit too much because that may actually damage the screen. Usually that's the first thing to go if you overheat it. But if you underheat it and you try to pry too much, then you're likely to crack the screen. So you really have to be in the sweet spot here. So what I'm going to try to do is to use that's the gun of the hot air station, to heat very locally the parts that I want to cut and go slowly because I really don't want to break the screen. It may still happen, but ideally I prefer not to. And we'll see how it goes. So let's get started. Right, before we go there, I marked with tape here, I mean, fairly crude, but just to show you. So these are the most dangerous areas where you have to be extra careful. The reason for that is, and yeah, that's the top. So that's the left side, that's the right side, that's the bottom. Here you would have connectors to the screen very close to the edge. So if you pry too much and cut them, well, that's a game over. You basically have to replace either screen or at least the cables. And at the top, most of the top part, like both on the left and the right, fairly big chunks here are effectively antennas. And yeah, they go very close to the screen, and there's a lot of adhesive here, so we have to be extra careful. In other areas, it's not as critical as long as you don't push the screen too much as to crack it, but here you have to be very, very careful. So I'll have to take them out because these are, yeah, that tape is not good with heat. And well, luckily for us, like this part is basically already open without us doing anything. So, well, I guess that's something. I mean, we start with the parts that are already open, so I don't really need to heat that much, or at all, because I can just try to cut it. Alright, and here's our hot air gun. I'm trying to use as little heat as I can. Alright, and I think we passed the corner. Corners are the trickiest parts, obviously, because these are usually the weakest part of the glass. So ask me how I know. I did crack my phone, then I was trying to detach the screen, and yeah, I think there's a video on the channel. I don't know if I actually put it, had it a video of when it was cracked, but yeah, I did that myself while trying to remove it. it looks good so far. Let's try not to jinx it. Yeah, you see there's not a whole lot of adhesive on the bottom side. Okay, here's another tricky part coming up. So as you can see, this, I don't know how much you can see, there's a little bit of cutout. So these are the speakers, well, underneath the speakers, right one and the left one. And again, because there's a little bit of corner on the glass here, that means it's a weaker point. So we have to be very careful here. All right, and now we are actually at the cutout and the corner as well, so that is very tricky part. So we need to make sure we hit it well, but not overhit. All right, so we turned the corner there as well, and now it's the top part we'll need to take care of. Remember, there are lots of antennas right at the top, so we have to be really careful here. All right, and we're done. All right, so the screen seems to be detachable now, right? Okay, we need to make sure we don't damage the cables. Like so. Now we need to disconnect the screen cables. All right, so that's one connector and that's another connector. All right, so in order to disconnect the screen, we need to remove these two cables, and first we need to remove these EM shields, which apparently is a relatively tricky proposition. So all right, so it's moving. All right, I think it's mostly intact. We'll need to bend it back when reinstalling, but I think that looks fine. We can disconnect that cable now. Yep. All right, now all right, there we go. This one looks even better. All right, now to pop up this connector. There we go. Now, screen is disconnected and it is intact. I think yeah, I don't think we did too much damage to it. Again, yet. So yep, the screen is out. And we'll need to keep on working on the rest of the body. As you can see, the battery is extremely bloated. Actually, just one cell. This cell is fine. This cell is bloated. I think it's actually bending the heatsink even. Alright, but I'll need to take a break and we'll continue afterwards. Alright, and I'm back. So let's continue with our disassembly. So then the screen is gone. Now we need to disassemble the rest of the components on the board. There are ways to replace the battery without taking out the motherboard and a whole bunch of other components, but they're a bit sketchy. There's a good chance that you may short some components on the board because the battery is still attached. So we're not going to do that, and especially considering that, hey, like that's an excellent opportunity for us to find out how the whole thing is assembled. So we're going to disassemble most of the components here. to get to the battery, replace the battery, and assemble it all back together and replace the SSD. So that's the plan. Let's get going. All right, first order of business, we need to remove the antenna bracket, support bracket right on top. So in terms of the screws, most of the screws here are Torx. So something like that. Yeah, probably won't be able to see it. Yeah, T3s, T4s, and T5s. So that's, this one's I believe T5, so let's take off these 4. And that's that. That's the antenna bracket. So yeah, as you may, yeah, I don't know if you may managed to notice, but that's pretty much the only damage that I managed to inflict while taking off the screen. If you can see the antenna, that this one antenna was actually folded with adhesive, so I just basically unrolled it back. There's no damage, I didn't cut it, but apart from that, everything else looks fine. So support bracket for antennas. So next, we need to remove this CPU shield. The AM shield, that's the big one here. And there we go. No damage what I can see. Yeah, this one is a little bit bent. Yep. So that part is done. Now we need to unscrew the heatsink at the bottom. That will be very shiny. All right, now that's where this surface is different from i5 and i7 models. So i5 and i7 models have actually a fan, really small flat fan attached to the heat pipe here. But the M3 models do not have that. They're passively cooled completely. So we'll just need to unscrew, I guess, that part. Yep, this part is not attached anymore. And now we'll need to go through the CPU heatsink right here. There we go. All right, so that's the whole heatsink assembly is off. We'll need to replace the thermal paste when we're going to be reattaching it. We'll probably need to, I think it's pretty flat. Yeah, I don't think we'll need to bend it back. Another EM shield. This time, that's the one protecting the camera connectors. So right here. All right, this one did not want to cooperate quite, but I'll get it done. Yeah, this one will need to bend back quite a bit. But that's okay, they're designed for that. Now the camera connectors. Let's see. So 3 connectors here. That's 1. That's 2. And that's 3. Now there's another tiny connector here for power and volume buttons. And it's right this one. Disconnect it. Then another one is for the speaker. That's the speaker assemblies, and that is the, oops, can't get it in focus. That's the connector for the speaker. There we go. Connector out. All right, there's another one is right here. I think that's the headphones. All right, out. All right, now we need to detach another EM shield, which is this one. All right, done. So now we need to disconnect that cable. That's from the SD card reader. And now we have access to the another shield, which we'll need to remove. That's covering the power connector. All right, that was very energetic, but it also seems to be intact. Now we need to disconnect that power connector. See if we can zoom in a little bit more. Okay, first there's a bracket here. There we go. push the connector out of the socket. Alright, and the connector is out. Now we need to go back to the CPU area and deal with another speaker connector, which is this. And it's out. And do the similar operation on that connector as we did on the other side. Yep, done. Alright, I think now we disconnected most of the connectors that we cared about. So time to do a whole lot more screws. Now, not all screws here are actually the same, so the ones that we removed are all the same. But now this one and that one are different. And then there is another one which is different, which is this one. We still need to remove the right speaker. Now we need to take it out. Like so. So that's a speaker assembly. And now we should be able to take out the motherboard. Finally, let's see if that works. And there we go. The motherboard is out. Excellent. That would make things a lot easier. Alright, next would be removing the battery. Well, that might be an interesting ordeal. So let's get to it. Alright, so now for the battery removal, might be a bit tricky. So there's a lot of basically the whole back side of the battery is covered in adhesive, so that's tough. You may want to heat it up a little bit, but you have to be really careful with these batteries. I'm really hesitant to do that with the battery in that kind of condition. As you may see, yeah. So I'll try to do no heat if I can, and we'll see how that goes. So the weapon of choice would be isopropyl alcohol. 99. And yeah, I'll just put it into the bottle like that. I'll try to drip a little bit to the places where I want it to soften, and then we'll see if I can cut it with either the plastic spudger or actually dental floss. So we'll see if that works. So let's get going. And I would really want to cover the contacts here. Some dielectric tape. Don't want it to short. Alright, and that connector is all done. Actually, now we can apply some tape here. Just in case. Yeah, I don't remember if I mentioned before, but before working on the battery, and especially a battery like that, which is clearly compromised, you may want to discharge as much as you can the device if it was still operational, which I did. Also, wear eye protection when working with the screen and with the battery for different reasons. Well, screen can shatter easily, and yeah, you don't want glass shrapnel in your eyes. If you puncture the battery, like you have toxic fumes, potential fire, and so on and so forth. So yeah, protective equipment, important. Try not to use metal tools while working with the battery, because again, puncturing that is not a good idea. Alright, so I think it's gonna take a while now, just basically to dip a little bit of alcohol and wait until it softens up. I mean, I think you can see there's quite a decent gap here, so the alcohol seeps in. Then I pry it out a little bit, but I'll probably do it off camera, because a lot of that, even on fast forward, not exactly exciting, because I'm just waiting for the alcohol to work its way in. Alright, here's a quick progress update. So things are going actually quite nicely. As you can see, there's quite significant gap already. There's still a bit of adhesive there, but alcohol works really well. So that's, remember, that's with no heat. If you add a little bit of heat, that would go even faster, but as I said, I prefer not to, given condition of the battery. And look at that. So the broken part, well, the bloated part of the battery pack is out. So it's disconnected. Look at how clean it is. Like, no adhesive is on the battery. It's all left there. And you can tell, yeah, that's like, you can see like softened adhesive. It's still a little bit sticky, but that's all alcohol work. No heat whatsoever. I didn't need to do the floss. I had a floss. I mean, you can use the floss and cut out on the back, especially if it's heated, but again, like, there was no need. I just worked it out with the plastic card and a spudger and a little bit of alcohol. That actually didn't even take that long. So now for the second part of the pack. So we can disconnect the whole thing. Again, the same process, so I won't be filming too much, just a lot of waiting. And we're almost there. You can see, and always almost all the way. So basically that's what we're going to do. Just put a few drops of alcohol in there, and then just cut it with a card. And you can hear that the adhesive is actually just peeling off. It's like cracking a little bit. Yep. Almost there. A few more drops. Just like that. Not enough space to zoom in, but and it sounds like it's almost, yep. There you go. Again, clean out. Now cut adhesive. Full adhesive is there. Nothing is on the battery. Well, that's great. So that goes to the hazardous materials disposal. Make sure don't throw your disposed lithium batteries into regular garbage. That's not good. So yeah, make sure you properly dispose of that. So that's where it will go. And here we have basically nothing all ready for installing a new battery and then reassembler. So that I'll take care in a moment. All right, and let's take a look at the new battery. So here's the new battery, and compare it with the one that we just removed. Like, look at that. Yeah, that was not good. So now, in order to install a new one, we're going to reuse the adhesive what was still here. We don't want it to be too sticky, because in case, well, we want to replace it again. And there's plenty of adhesive here. I heated it up with hot air a little bit, just to make sure it's a little bit stickier. So let's apply a little bit of double-sided tape. Where do you hit that? To the connector, Thor, because connector right now is not, yeah, just very, very thin, like that. Maybe we'll do it actually here. Right. So here's our connector, and we'll just put thin strips at the back, like so. And the second one. Like that. Now we can detach the paper side. Right. And let's put it back. Need to make sure we align with the pin. Just like that. Like so. Alright, so it's attached. Let's make sure our battery is, yeah, it's already adheres well to the case. We don't need to make it any sticker. Yeah, as you can see, it's not falling off. That's and that's battery installed. So now, of course, the tricky part is put it all back together and make sure that all still works. So before we go there, let's make sure that we have good adhesion here. And we will need to put in the motherboard. Without it snagging on anything else. Alright, so let's do exactly that. Need to take out the insulation, but we'll need to add some temporary one, like a piece of paper or something. So when we are putting in the motherboard, we don't mess up anything. Alright, that should do. Just a piece of paper right there. And here's our motherboard. So we'll need to slide it in a way so it doesn't snag anything. Right, I think now it is aligned. It's important to align the battery connectors with the motherboard, or you can short circuit it. And all right, so motherboard seems to be in place. Now it's time to screw in and reconnect everything. Let's get started. All right, so now time to get back to the heat shield. But first we need to do some cleanup work. So remove some old thermal paste from the CPU and from the heatsink itself. Okay, that's just alcohol again. Okay, cleaning the bracket of course was entirely unnecessary, just for cosmetic purposes. The important part is the top, as you can see. It's a mirror finish. So perfect. So now need to do the same for the heatsink. Yeah, look at those chunks. This thermal paste was not doing that much recently. Alright, mirror finish here as well. Let's reapply our thermal paste. Yeah. Arctic Silver 5. Right now, let's put it on. Alright, done. Okay, let's attach the other parts of the heatsink. Alright, and now time to reattach the CPU EM shield. It's right here. And it's in place. Alright, let's get back to our final screws here, huh? And that's the antenna bracket. Alright, and we were able to use all the screws that we had and didn't have any screws missing. That is impressive. Okay, and we are ready to test. So let's see if the whole thing worked or not. Alright, great news. I have tested the assembly without the internal screen, just used external one. And everything to that point seems to be working. So I tested speakers, tested battery, obviously, charging, all the antennas, so Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cameras, everything seems to be working again. The touch keyboard, USB ports, mini display port, yeah, that's great news. So the only thing which is left would be to attach the actual screen and glue it, well, somehow, and that should be it. But, well, before we go there, I still didn't forget about the SSD replacement. So SSD is actually under this EM shield, so let's pop it up. And that's done. So here's our original SSD by Samsung. And we're going to replace it with another Samsung SSD, just a different one. Okay, so let's take this one out first. Just one screw here. And it's up. So this one should be 128. Do we see it? Yeah, 128. And here is what we're going to replace it with a Samsung 980 Pro 250. So that's that. And it's in. And let's put the screw back. And that's that. So how simple is that? Well, just like you need to remove a whole bunch of other stuff. Well, it's actually for this one just the screen and the EM shield. And that's it. Okay, so let me just fix the shield quickly. And that's that. So time to test drive with the screen. Alright, great news again. So I have tried to quick connect the screen, the internal screen, and it seems to be working, both touch and the display. So now what's left is I'm gonna clean all the adhesive on the screen. I'll keep the adhesive which is in good shape on the case, because you see this, yeah, this one kind of folded on itself, so that's not gonna be good from a thickness perspective. So, and I'll reapply new adhesive tape for the missing pieces on the case, and the screen is going to be clean, and that's how I'm going to attach it. And that should be it. I'll do it off camera. There's not really anything really exciting here, as you can see, because that's a plastic backing here. Like the adhesive, it's actually, you can just peel it for the most part. So it just comes out. Alright, see you when it's done. Alright, I tested again with the reinstalled SSD, and that part seems to be working fine as well. So it's time to do a final reassembly, so attach the screen. So let's get going. So I'm going to reuse the adhesive as much as I can, because the adhesive on the case, the one what I kept, is fine, it's flat, it's good. I don't want it to be super sticky anyway, so that's fine. There are several places where I had to scrape it because it wasn't good, and when it's on top, and that's where I'm going to reapply, or apply rather, double-sided tape and see how it goes. So I did pre-cut a few pieces of the double-sided tape, and like that. And we're gonna apply it to the edge. And that should be fine for our tape application. Now time to reconnect the screen. Alright, time to reconnect our connectors. So here's the screen. And now, carefully attach the screen connector. And now the touchpad. Oh, touch screen. And that's that. Before we reattach EM shields, let's just test that we are live at the screen. And we're in. Alright, that's great news. So connectors are attached. Let's just see. Yep, touch screen seems to be working. Now time to reattach the EM shields and glue the screen finally. Let's make sure we're still live. Yep. Alright, let's glue this. Okay, so now we're gonna locate the screen where it's supposed to be at the bottom. So here, where it's the old adhesive, which is right now cold, so it's not super sticky. Like so. And now we just need to remove the backing tape from the tape what we just added. So let's do just that. And okay. Now I'm just using the plastic card to make sure that we are not adhering just yet. Need to make sure that the alignment is just perfect. So this side seems to be fine. The important part, they need to fit into the corners. And let's do this one. Like so. All right, so the screen is in. And now what we want to do is to put some weight on top. But we may also want to heat it up a little bit, just so it sticks again. I don't want to have super strong adhesion here in case I need to reopen this again. Yep. I'll just double check again. Yep. Looks good. And now let's heat it up and put some weight to it. And that should be it. All right. And I'm going to heat it up just a little bit, and I also have these nifty screen clamps. So it's usually good for corners, or sometimes just at the edges if they're not flat, but I mean, it looks good so far. Yeah, just checking the screen for flatness. Yep, flat. Definitely not how it used to be, bulging like that. And that's that. I'll just turn it on again. Yep. Battery is right there. You can see. Screen is working. The drive is working clearly. I cloned it from the old drive. That's why you see already a startup screen. And that's great. Mission success. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what I did right, wrong. I'll probably upload the extended version to our sister channel, JMI Works. That's usually where I put stuff which is longer. Not everyone wants to watch longer videos. But there are a lot more detail in there, so if you actually want to follow step by step, if you want to do that, or just find more information or find more entertaining, check it out there. And with that, happy to hear any comments, good, bad, hopefully good, and I'll see you next time.